Death count 10. Okay, let's try and learn the shield parry. Wait, really? Okay, that was easy. So I just finished castrating Calamity Ganon and feeding his remains to the Lynels outside of Hyrule Castle, and I gotta say, this has been quite the journey. Now, I'm no Zelda expert, but as a man who saved a few Princess Peaches back in his younger days, I feel like that gives me the authority to slap you in the face, give you a little wedgie, and talk to you about a few of my opinions on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But before I start, let's clear up any possible confusion as to what this video is. I'm a Fire Emblem content creator, most of you know me from that, but sometimes I like to take a step back from Waifu Simulator Anime Chess and play some other games. So I figured I might as well share some of my opinions on the games that I play with you guys on this channel in a shorter, quick, review-based format, sort of like the Moist Meter that Moist Critical does on his channel. As a matter of fact, you could call it a direct copy, but I've got a little bit of a twist on it of my own, don't worry. We're calling it the Sizzling Scale here. You know, yeah, we're coming up with a different name to be more in line with the channel theme. Yeah, that's it. And it's going to be on a 1 to 10 scale. It's not a percentage. See, I'm different. And I'll do an overview with a recap and a grade at the end. Oh, and don't worry. I'm no IGN. Things that are below a 9, they're not bad games. My average score is probably going to hover around a 5 or a 6 rating. Also, don't worry, it's not the end of Fire Emblem content on the channel. It's just something fresh and a change of pace. I'll keep sprinkling in little Fire Emblem videos here and there. I'm not done or moving on or anything. I'm just kind of branching out, trying new things. So, in order to make this a more engaging viewing experience for you, I had to figure out a couple ways to let you, the audience, interact with this video directly. For each game I review, I'm going to be using audio tracks from only that game, except one. If you're paying attention and you recognize that one song that is not from the game I'm reviewing, that's going to be the teaser for the next game I'm going to be talking about. The second thing is, I'm actually going to let you guys, the audience, have the power to decide what games I play next. The game that has the most likes in the comments will be what I play, with the caveat that it should be available on Switch or PC, you know what I mean. Currently, there is a little bit of a line of things that I'm already starting to play, and I'm writing about 4 scripts at the same time right now. I can tell you Persona is one of those series that is going to be played. I'm already working on 3, and Ace Attorney is a series that I'm going to be visiting very, very soon. Having said that, have at it in the comments. There isn't anything that's not fair game. Even Fire Emblem games, if you want to see me talk about those are actually super easy for me to do. Definitely feel free to recommend those if you want to see a Fire Emblem game. I think things like Fates and Awakening are something that I do want to revisit at some point either way. Now with all that out of the way, let's talk about Breath of the Wild. This game was designated Game of the Year in 2017, apparently up there with the all-time greats like Muhammad Ali and Michael Jordan, and I never really understood why. At least, not until now. At first, I was skeptical of the free-flowing format of I can do whatever I want whenever I want, as it pertains to a Zelda game, but I gotta say, this game actually makes it work. The largest portion of this game is its gameplay, so I'll talk about that first. It's a true open-world experience in that you can do it in any order you desire. You see that erupting volcano over in the distance? You can go there. You see that horse running in the field? You can catch it. You see that final boss flying around the big castle in the middle of the map? You can just go end the game right now. The world is your oyster here, and the freedom that it gives you is incredible. The first time I played this game was on stream, and just the thought of hopping on, asking chat, what are we gonna do today? And then being able to just go do it was a ton of fun. There are days where you kinda just wanna explore the world, run after chests, hunt down some animals, cook food, and upgrade your gear. And there are other days where you wanna progress your Sheikah Tower checkpoints, dive into shrines to puzzle solve, upgrade your attributes, or even progress the main story. There is no particular order to these things, you just kinda do what you want, when you want, and I think that this is a huge part of what makes this game so flexible and fun to play. Having said that, the game also does suffer a little bit because of this. The storyline can feel somewhat fragmented and simplified due to the random nature of the progression of it, and so it's not exactly the most mind-blowing story out there, but I'll get to that a little bit later. The variation of the monster difficulty is also something that takes a hit here as well. At some point, you just become so strong that nothing the game throws at you will be challenging without you purposely gimping yourself. And the champion's powers that you get from progressing the story can also be somewhat game-breaking. Outside of that, the level of flexibility of the gameplay is a massive boon. You can figure out a lot of puzzles in a lot of different ways, just get down and dirty and get creative with it. I recall one puzzle where I had to dig deep into my previous life where I taught Tiger Woods everything he knew and I golfed my way to victory. Don't believe me? Check this out. I'm assuming this is another golf? And you guys know, I taught Tiger Woods everything he knows about golf. No way! At this point, it brings us to the next portion to talk about, which is the dungeons. I'm going to be a little bit harsh here, but I think the shrine and dungeon system is a flat-out downgrade compared to most mainline Zelda games. They went with quantity over quality with the shrines, and you can really see it in how they're designed. Not all shrines are as fun to play through and figure out as the others, and some are straight up just combat trials, which are interesting the first couple times around, but after that you end up just walking in, clapping some cheeks, and walking out in about a minute. The main story dungeons are more interesting, and they definitely are much shorter than what we're used to previously, and don't have the deep intricacies and puzzles that those ones had. Though I will give it credit where credit is due, some of the puzzles in certain shrines had me completely stumped, so there are most certainly diamonds in the rough. If it were up to me, I'd rather concentrate all these puzzles into longer dungeons, but I think as an exchange for flexibility, this was actually an interesting way to go about it, and a fresh experience we haven't really had before. This is the part of the video where I start getting a little bit conflicted about my opinions. See, it's really hard to knock a game based on personal preference for trying to be something different than what we're used to. So I won't. Breath of the Wild at its core is designed to be a massive exploration simulator, and it shows that and it does its job very well. Look no further than Korok seeds, for example, and the inventory slot restrictions. Early on, it is an absolute chore to get anything done with those inventory slots, not to mention the stamina and HP you have that requires you to dive into so many shrines to get up to speed. It wants you to explore, to look properly into the overworld instead of jumping from objective to objective like a deranged man trying to cross a highway like he's straight out of Frogger 2. That is the game's identity, and if you go into it accepting that this is what you're going to have to do, you'll probably enjoy just kicking back and exploring the world slowly at your own pace while finding all the little small intricacies it has to offer. One of the things I'd also heard a lot about Breath of the Wild before, during, and after I played it is that the world feels soulless and empty. And while I do get that this is actually part of the plot, it usually doesn't stop Zelda games from finding something to fill the void with. In this instance, there are about as many Korok seeds in the game as there are Fire Emblem characters in Smash Bros. Some would say too many, but it arguably interlaces quite well with the purpose of the game. Explore, find treasure, solve puzzles, upgrade gear, maybe advance the story, and repeat. I think with how divisively different the gameplay experience of this game is, it's very hard to criticize it for what it is compared to the other games in the series, rather than what the game wants to be. As a Zelda fan that isn't as hardcore as most, I'm torn between longing for the nostalgic feel of the 8 linear mega dungeons and its progression versus the free-flowing nature and flexibility of this game that is reminiscent of the MMO genre that I also very much enjoy. Also, I can just decide to go burn down a random forest if I wanted to, and that's always a good time. Now, if only they'd let me do that to the stupid Lost Woods. I'm burning around the bush here, but I think my takeaway for this is that the game succeeds in doing what it set out to do, and I don't think I can really fault it for that, especially since I really liked playing the game. Gameplay is, like I said before, pretty much the vast majority of this game, and I haven't even gotten into the cooking, crafting, collecting parts of it, and in the interest of time, I won't. I think the system is just super deep, and way deeper than I can do it justice within the video time frame I've set myself. None of this is mandatory, but all the features add layers upon layers of gameplay depth that you can choose to explore at your own leisure. As for the story, I'm just going to come out and say it like Voldemort casting Avada Kedavra, I don't think the story is very good. The entire premise of saving a world that is already in ruins and slowly clearing away the corruption has been done many times over in gaming media. Breath of the Wild also doesn't really put in any unique aspects to this or any major plot twists. The formula is very basic, where you move from region to region, you meet a descendant of whatever champion and Gundam animal you're trying to save, you go through a dungeon, you save it, and you move on to the next one. The story is secondary to the gameplay, and it really does show here. Having said that, the characters themselves are actually quite likable. But once again, because of the way the story is catering to your gameplay experience, their interactions with each other are nearly non-existent, and the screen time they do get is very short-lived. One thing I will praise it for, however, is the memory system. Much like support conversations in Fire Emblem, there are little extra story clips that you can seek out through your exploration of the world. The game gives you a little screenshot as a hint to where they are, and it's up to you to go Gadget Helicopter over to that area and find them. These help add some much needed characterization to the cast, but it's the old cast that aren't really around much in this game to begin with. Maybe I'm being a little asinine here with my expectations from the story in a Zelda game, but the cast here had such potential. For what it's worth, I think Age of Calamity actually does an excellent job at filling this void, hint hint for those of you paying attention, and I found myself getting the character interaction and backstory I wanted over there instead of here, which is odd because that one's kind of a spin-off prequel. There will also be a sequel, so maybe we just need to wait for that to get the rest of their character arcs or the rest of the story, so I might just be judging unfairly here. The lore in this game should also be applauded. Once again, the integration of gameplay, exploration, and storytelling is woven in quite nicely in the few instances where you find bits and pieces of lore during the side quests. Having said that, I'm not super read up on any of the lore or the depth of the side characters and random NPCs because I just simply did not 100% the game. So if I made a mistake or if I'm going about this quite in a wrong way, let me know in the comments. But overall, if I'm going to be fair here, I judge the gameplay section for what it wanted to be instead of what it wasn't, and since the story suffers directly as a result of that, I'm going to have to be at least somewhat critical of this. I could probably talk for hours about this game and how much fun I had with it, and while it may sound like I wasn't enthused by a few aspects of it, I actually think that overall this is a very fun game to play. If I were to sink my proverbial thermometer into the flesh of Breath of the Wild, I think we might come out with about an 8.5 degrees of sizzle. Overall, an excellent game to play and one that I think I can safely recommend to a lot of people who are looking for a deep exploration and gameplay system and don't want to be too bogged down or hindered by the story or linearity. This isn't our last dive into the general world of Breath of the Wild, so I'm excited to see what it has in store for us soon. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it, and if you like this new series, let me know in the comments and what you want to see next, and don't forget to vote which game you want to see me play and talk about pretty soon. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video very soon. Peace.